All right, welcome everybody to the Network Plumbing Working Group meeting for Thursday, August 27th, 2020. Doug, I believe you have the first item on the agenda.
All right, cool. Yeah, I've got two sections here that are about the governance proposal. But the first one I wanted to talk about was that it was brought to my attention, and I agree that currently for the GitHub org ownership, Dan, it's you and I and Mike Spreitzer, and I think that probably, so when this first happened, Mike is part of IBM. At the time, Red Hat was not part of IBM, but now it's kind of all under one rooftop. And we should definitely make sure that that's addressed, and so that we've got org ownership that's has some diversity there. So anyways, I wanted to get people's take on that, and I'm wondering if we think that we should add some language to the governance proposal doc about the org ownership.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a good idea. What is the criteria for somebody to become an org owner? I think we have two separate problems, though. The first one is what's the process, and the other one is how do we ensure a little bit more balanced representation as soon as possible for org ownership on GitHub.
Yeah.
I think we know how to solve the second one, which is your proposal here, Doug. The first one's a little trickier. Yeah, I don't know if we need to solve it immediately. It would be good to solve it as soon as possible.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I would just like to assure everybody that that you're in good hands here, and and I hope that Dan and I are showing good faith on this one. But we don't want it to be this way. So let me try to come up with some language for this to see how we can handle it, and then. Yeah. All right. So anyways, I guess it's good to make people aware of this and to let people know that we want to take care of it. So I'm just going to add a stub in the governance doc, and I'll try to put some thought into this one. All right. So continuing on, I do have some updates to the governance proposal. They're a bit smaller this time. And so I guess there was the few things that I changed really were I updated the section on voting, and I changed the quorum to be 3 members to vote in general, 5 members to change the governance document, is what I put in here. And then I added an example to show, what it looks like if, in order to balance the representation between companies and their employees, to just make that clear. Basically to show you, hey, if there's a bunch of people from one organization but only a few from another, then some people have to abstain, is essentially what I've got there. Those were really the only major changes. Otherwise, I just did a little bit of cleanup to try to normalize some language. But that's it. So that being said, I wanted to open the floor to see if there's any major concerns that people have. And I also wanted to get a sense from people about how close we think we are to voting on this. Um, I, as it tends to go with a lot of the proposals that we have in this group, um, we tend to get a lot of rapid changes right off the bat, which is awesome. And then we get a bit of a slowdown, and I'm starting to feel that it's starting to stabilize a little bit. So, anyone have comments on those?
So Adrian, I was trying to remember, I think it was in the SRV meeting, you brought up the concern somewhere, and we'll have to dig through the document about vendor neutral code. And with some of the SRV stuff, part of the reason to move it was so that some vendor specific with the correct API could be added. Do we need to address that at all?
Hey Billy, so yeah, I remember saying that. So I think it's covered here in the governance doc, right? In the mission statement, that it should be like vendor neutral technologies. I did state something about the fact that the SRV device plugin has some code which is vendor specific. Which would kind of challenge this mission statement we will need to handle. So, I mean, that's basically. I mean, I don't want it to affect the mission statement. I feel that we should define something and then find a way when we migrate the project for them to, let's say, hold up to that mission statement, given it's like, and of course we don't want to be too specific in it. So
right.
So I mean,
I think in general we want vendor neutral code, but when there's something that's implemented two different ways by two different vendors, we need. Now, I don't know if the right word is an exception or a right way to handle some vendor specific implementation if needed. Or, I mean, do you feel comfortable with what's there, or is there anything that needs to be amended to make sure that we can still make progress and get stuff in that we want to get in, I guess is the right wording.
So my engineering take would be that this should be like vendor neutral. So it means that ideally we need to have like in general like one implementation of stuff, like of features, right? So there is a standard way, not everybody cooks their own. So I mean, this kind of sifts down from from whether or not from the kernel API upwards, right?
Right.
I'm just saying that having it like vendor neutral technology here, I mean, it will pose some challenges when we move the SRV device plugin. That's all.
Okay.
And we discussed about that we want to move it, right? So like the CNI and the device plugin. So
right.
It was just more as a heads up. Whether we want to change the mission statement to fit that, I'm not sure. Like maybe we can get some inputs from other people here. Overall, I have no specific objection of having, let's say, if we have a stable API that each vendor wants to implement. I mean, sure it could work, but then down the road, I mean, it might get cumbersome. So
no, I totally agree. But I mean, I think part of for other people that don't attend this RV meeting, I think one of the issues that was coming up previously was something like the VLAN trunk, where the kernel basically rejected and said we don't want this in the code. So now we have two different implementations of VLAN trunk that aren't necessarily common, but we want to support it in the CNI. So, I mean, I think our solution was to have a common API, and then it kind of potentially forks off to some vendor specific stuff, since you can't call to a common kernel to implement it. So, I mean, is something like that going to be rejected now? And if we move this over to the network plumbing working group, or is the mission statement and the governance okay to somehow work out a solution for that?
I guess the way that the governance doc is written now, I have some verbiage in there that says, hey, the maintainers of a given project can work together to iron out problems. If they can't come to a consensus, it comes back to this meeting for a vote to guide the direction of it. So if, like, say it's right now and there's no way to come to a consensus, it'd come to the group and maybe there would be a proposal on how to handle it, to say, hey, we can't come to a consensus. There's code here that's not vendor neutral, it's vendor specific. And then maybe there's a proposal to say, hey, we have a way to make this extensible. And then each vendor can talk to this API, for example,
Right.
or here's a way that we can, change the object-oriented paradigm of this so that we can make two different objects that you load in the code, and each vendor can have like their own module that implements a interface in the code or whatever. Which I guess is just also another way to say API. But anyways, I digress. That's the way it would work today. Now,
So I think what you're saying is that the way the wording is the maintainers have that leeway to, if they all agree that this is something they want in their project, they can do that.
Yes, and while I think everyone should work towards the mission statement, I think that if there's also language in there about pull requests, that they've got to be accepted from diverse vendors, then I would say that kind of implies a vendor neutrality in a way. So I would say that, although by the same token, I am not opposed at all to adding language in here. I try to find the right place that says, in the case where you can't have it be vendor neutral, you have to work towards extensibility that allows a vendor specific implementation that doesn't preclude you from using another vendor's technology or methodology.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah, so it's just that, I think the concern here is basically, maybe it's not justified, right? But, looking down the road, like having too many implementation of the same API, may make the code hard to maintain, right? So, but I think this is something which, when we get to it, we can discuss, right? If we get to that point.
Definitely. Also, we have made the allowance for changing this document in the future as well. So if we get to some kind of an impasse with making that decision, we could vote to change or otherwise amend the doc as well.
Okay, so it sounds like we're good. I vaguely remember the conversation from our last meeting. I just want to make sure, Adrian, we had covered it and that you were happy, or we will be able to move forward with what we want.
Yeah, I think it was mainly, the concern here was that some of the vendor specific stuff would be problematic to move here. Specifically, like, I think it should have been more concerned to the Intel folks, right, in general, not mine, but, but I raised it. Anyway. So I'm guessing that, like, we are giving it, like, let's say we are leaving some leeway for the project maintainers to find a compromise here, right? That's what we are saying. So although the statement depicts an let's say, an ideology here. The individual project may derive from it as long as they are keeping things let's say extensible, like to allow other implementation to satisfy the API. I think that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I appreciate this discussion a lot because it's kind of nice to actually compare this document to a use case. This is something that we're really good at doing in this group, so I'm really happy to do it with something that's even as administrative as this may be. So I appreciate that a lot. But yeah, basically the language is, it's under the maintainer responsibilities, and the language reads, maintainers may meet and make decisions regarding a given repository. However, if consensus cannot be reached on a given topic, maintainers must bring these topics to the Network Plumbing Working Group bi-weekly meeting for discussion, and if necessary, a vote.
Yeah, so it covers it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Cool, awesome. Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate that a lot. All right.
So did we answer the question? Are we going to try to vote next session, or did I read too far ahead?
Nope. That's what I proposed, is to have a vote in the next session. I will make another pass, especially for just correctness in general. However, and I'll try to add the stanza about GitHub organization ownership, and what I'll try to do is get that done on the earlier side of this 2-week period, and give people a chance to read it over. And also what I'll do is I'll send a mail out to the group saying, last call for comments, we'd like to vote on this, and also to make sure to publicize that, to give people time to make space in their calendar if they can't regularly attend, etc.
Question on the voting, Doug. Do you think we should vote under new rules or old rules? I don't know if it makes a big difference, but it's a question.
I think that I think that's a great question, and it's such a chicken and egg thing that it's
Right.
kind of hilarious, but I would say that to get started on the right foot, I say we should vote under the new paradigm, and what we can do is, I guess we just assume membership based on the lists that we have here and the notes in the doc that basically says that you participate, which is only as complex as adding your name to the list or having your name anywhere in the notes. And yeah, and we'll go with the balanced organization paradigm, and we'll go from there. That's what I would propose. If anyone has any other thoughts on that, I'm good with it too.
So are we going to scrub the agenda document for participation so we have the list of voting members, I guess? Is that what the plan, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so I guess what we would do when say it's next week, let's just assume it's the same people on the call. We would just go through and be like, hey, Dan, I'll just use Dan as an example. I'll be like, Dan, would you like to vote? We have you here as showing your participation in the group. you can vote on this, and then we'll take it from there. Do that, member by member, and yeah, I guess that's probably good. I guess also in case there's, yeah, I mean, it is just chicken and egg, which is a bit hard.
We don't have to discuss too much about it. Even that is better than perhaps our old rules. So let's just go with that. As long as everybody's happy with it, as long as we've addressed the comments on the governance doc, I think we'll be okay.
Cool. And my goal here is to have a unanimous vote. If there's people who dissent, I want to make sure their concerns are addressed. That's my goal with the document for sure.
All right. Anything else in government's proposal? I request that everybody please read and review that document one more time. We've got 2 weeks to do it. Should be plenty of time to address any further concerns, and can vote on that in 2 weeks.
Awesome. That covers it for me. Thank you, everyone, for the time.
Thank you for your work on this.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. I added the item to the agenda about update on device information proposal. I was just looking for a quick update there since we didn't talk about that last time and I don't want to forget about it. Is there anybody on the call who can address that?
I can address that. And I apologize. I was in last week's meeting and I had a kid's Zoom and I had to drop for a second. I thought I'd be right back and it took, took 20 minutes to solve. So I apologize for dropping on it. So where this one stands, Adrian from Red Hat is the main driver of this, and I kind of help him and support him. But up to this point, he's been the main one driving. I have recently pulled off of, I haven't pulled off my other project, but I am going to pull my full attention on this now. So I haven't updated, it hasn't been updated in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So there's nothing new in the document. However, going forward, I would like to start getting this finalized and maybe in a 2 or 3 meetings start to be ready for vote on maybe spec changes and that sort of thing. So if there's people have comments or have kind of like not spending time on it, but you keep meaning to, I think now's about the time to start doing that, because I would like to move this forward if possible. I think where we stand, at least the last I remember, is we were going to try to update the spec to specify changes needed for the network status field annotation. However, we were going to have more of a best practice document describing how to, some of the data that is being passed around, like device plugin should write a file and Multis should be able to read this file and pull this information and write it into the annotation.
Right.
That would be more of a best practice document that accompanied it.
Okay.
I think that's kind of where we're headed. And does that sound like the right approach for everyone?
Yeah, I think so. I noticed that the current proposal does have proposed spec modifications. So that's a great start. And that's more or less what we need to look for there. I think there's a couple of comments on the doc in that section that probably should be clarified. And everybody who is interested in this should review those modifications to make sure that we're happy with them. And then we'll see what cleanups, changes, etc. happen 2 weeks from now, if that sounds good, Billy.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Okay.
And like I said, I apologize, I haven't really had a chance to work on it, but this is going to get some of my full attention. So I would like to, if there's bigger items like, like at a higher level, this just won't work, or, this doesn't belong here, then hopefully we could have addressed that by now or really soon, so that we can just argue about the shoulds and the musts as opposed to whether we should even do this. So
right.
I'm hoping we're at that point where we can start arguing about must and should as opposed to the other.
Okay.
Hi, Billy. This is Perry from Ericsson.
Hey.
So regarding this network status annotations, like I was also working with Adrian, like for the POC development.
Yeah.
Maybe if you need any help, like I can also pitch in preparing any pull request or testing any changes.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
Yeah, I'm ready to help you out.
Okay, good. Yeah, Adrian had said you'd been working with you, so that's great. Part of what I need to do this week is kind of catch up on where Adrian is on some of the POC changes in the different projects and kind of start building them locally. I've kind of glanced at them, but I haven't built them locally, so that's kind of my next step.
Yeah. Once maybe the spec gets merged into the report, then we can work on the code changes.
Right. Yeah, I think my first pass is to try to get the spec into a place where we can start talking about votes and stuff. So that's really the next step, I think.
Okay, good.
Also, from my side, I can help if you guys need any help after merging the spec with the implementation of the code. So
Yes, actually, like we have all the code changes in place in the Adrian private repo. So mostly like we need to raise the PRs and get it reviewed. So that's all we may have to do.
Okay. I guess one of my action items will be in this section is to add links to those forks to where the updates are, just so it's in a common place so everyone knows where they could poke and look at some of the code.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Over to Tomo then.
Yep. Let me update the multi-network policy so that this is the previously we are called about the MacVLAN network policy. So in the agenda doc, I also attach in the new GitHub rep name. So so currently this network policy uses the IP table, so they are not only for the MacVLAN. Also, the IP VLAN is also target. So I'm changed the repository name as the multi-network policy, and then in code, there is lots of the MacVLAN term is used. So I'm simply replaced as the multi-network policy. And then the API version is now the B1 beta 1. And then I hope that in the future, we may add the several features and then update this stuff. And then so currently this is the kinds of the incubation level, the product. I mean, try to make it product, but there's still I need any feedback for this stuff. So if you are interested in the network policy for Malta's interface, please take a look into it, and then try to do that, and then please give me any feedback. And not only the issue ticket, also I'm in the Slack channel of the Malta stuff, and then also the GitHub contains my email address. So please ping me. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tomo.
So Tomo, like I have a question related to this multi-network policy. So when we are going to do it via Maltus, right? So like we could have like a different kind of CNI plugins. Maybe like we have something like MacVLAN or OVS CNI. So how the implementations like will differ, like because the CNI, secondary CNI could be from any kind of implementations, right? Because if you take OVS CNI, so it could be like open flow rules. So whereas in MacVLAN, like it could be like IP table rules. So how it's going to be taken care, like that is being considered as part of this design changes?
Sorry, I missed your last sentence. Could you say that again, please?
No, thing is like how we are going to generalize this network policies, because like we have like different CNI plugins.
Yep. So okay, got it. So so currently how do I say? So currently, I'm just targeting as most generic method to do a packet filtering. I mean that that's the IP tables, and then the using the IP tables, almost CNI. I could saying that the as long as the interface is under the Linux kernel, at that time packet flow is intercepted as by the IP table as the net filter framework. So that is the current stuff. And then, but on the other side, if some customer like the telecom or some company which requires the high-speed networking, at that time the user may use the non-kernel based interface. I mean that the DPDK with the Pole mode driver directly to connect the physical NIC or the eBPF or AFXDP. At that time, maybe the packet filtering must need to be done in the application side because the IP table does not intercept their processing. So that is still in the how do I say challenges, and then I'm as a part of the community. So this should be the vendor neutral stuff. So so at that time I'd like to start a discussion about the software vendor of the DPDK app as well as the eBPF or the AFXDP.
Okay.
To
because
how to implement.
because we use OVS CNI, so that is from KubeVirt project. So that is mostly based on OVS. So maybe if we have such kind of CNIs, maybe if we have some APIs being exposed to those secondary CNIs, maybe then CNI itself can program such kind of policies, right?
I see. Yeah. So
based on
currently
their-
so this multi-network policy provides the Kubernetes CRD schema, and then this is pretty same as the Kubernetes network policy. So of course you can use this CLD to use your secondary interface of the Open vSwitch's OBS based one.
Okay.
And then if you're going to use this stuff, then please let me know. I also add some reference to the README file or this stuff.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'll also see. I'm in touch with the KubeVirt guys sometimes. I may also bring this up to them too to see if we can find some synergy there, Perry, to see if there's more people interested in that implementation too.
Okay, good. Yeah, like in CNI, like we have APIs, like we have CNI add, DIL. So those kind of APIs being exposed to the secondary CNIs. So if we have such APIs for policies, so then like we can do the like appropriate data plane programming based on the underlay, like so what is being chosen inside the CNI.
So this should be the pretty interesting topic to discuss because the packet filtering mechanisms depends on its framework, right? I mean that the eBPF case they need to implement in the eBPF, the virtual machine code, and then another IP table based one should be must be different as well as the NF table. So I'm just thinking about we should provide some initial CRD
CRD, okay.
to sharing this CLD, the schema is used for the network stuff, and then the many implementation can read the CLD from the Kubernetes cluster and then interpret. That is my thoughts. So
Yeah,
currently
one is creating the network policy. Like along with that, like we need to attach that policy with the appropriate network attachment definition, right?
Yeah.
So that when container comes up, when IP is being assigned to that container interface, then policies should be programmed automatically.
yeah,
for those
or
IP addresses.
maybe the after the pod launched, user may create the network policy.
Okay.
So at that time, of course, the some controller is watching to creation or the changes of the network policy, and then they change it the each the filtering inside the pod or some stuff somehow. So
okay. Yeah. But which entity is going to program like those rules? Whether it could be IP table rules or it could be OVS flow rules.
Yeah,
Those
and the
things
eBPF side, the
EVPF,
depends on the implementation.
Yeah, correct.
It's a lots of challenges exist. And then the so currently the maybe that's the why the Kubernetes upstream is just to provide the CLD for network policy. So so still the this is the controversial topic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Do we have any other topics to talk about? Floor is open. All right. If not, everybody please take a look at the governance proposal for one last time with the intent of voting on that proposal in 2 weeks at the next meeting, and also address or add any more comments to the device information proposal. And also please take a look at Tomo's multi-network policy update and give any feedback you have on that. Thanks everybody, and hope to see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.